Hey everybody, it's your old pal Mike. I hope you're happy, healthy, and safe. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlethems. I am so pleased to join you on whatever day this comes out. I have no idea what's going on, but I thought I would give you a quick rundown of the last couple weeks, what I've been working on, what I hope to be working on, as well as little tiny baby events in my life. Let's get into it. I have been very busy. Maybe a little too busy. I'm definitely feeling the stress a little bit here and there. I have had so many big jobs, that I just haven't had time to do much anything else. But I am happy to report that I am seeing the light at the end of the proverbial tunnel, and so I want to tell you about some of these very cool jobs. The first one is a 1962 Fender Jaguar, now owned by my good friend Tony. Tony and I went to high school together. He's a super cool guy. His wife bought it for him as a gift. However, it still needed a little bit of attention once it arrived from whichever shop it came from. I don't remember offhand. That guitar was in excellent condition and was totally original. But as I have said so many times before in the channel, original doesn't always mean best, and when it comes to things like foam under the pickups and on the mute of a Jaguar on vintage Fender, yeah, vintage is definitely not better. That old foam starts to crumble, it starts to decompose, it turns into a thick black goop that gets everywhere, is heinous for paint, is bad on your hands, and horrible as foam. As far as height adjustment goes, those pickups were immobile, and as a mute, it did not do anything. So I pulled the pickups, I pulled the foam off of the mute, and replaced it all so that not only can Tony now adjust the height of his pickups, but his mute. Oh, it works so well. The Fender mute is one of my favorite features of old and vintage spec Jaguars, and God, I just want to be able to spread the gospel of how fun that tool is to have on your guitar. Like it turns any Jaguar essentially into a banjo or into a sustainless muted instrument, and God, is it fun. Here's a little demo that I filmed just for you. Yeah, that's me playing a surfy version of Weezer's Island in the Sun on a 62 Jag with the mute engaged, and I just can't get enough of it. In fact, I am thinking about starting another Weezer tribute band, but this time, all surf. Anyway, that Jaguar was beautiful. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. Wonderful vintage piece, and I'm so happy that Tony gets to keep it, and not me, because I'd probably break it somehow. I'd ruin that finish. Speaking of ruining the finish, there's one thing I wanted to tell you about this guitar, which is incredible, and that is this guitar, like so many vintage instruments I have encountered over the years, has a hilarious modification. Just take a look. What you're seeing on the back of the guitar are two drilled in push button points, kind of like what you would have on a jacket or a pair of pants. These are like little Levi style buttons onto which the original owner would mount a back pad to prevent buckle wear. You know, big belt buckles like some of us wear that'll dig into the finish on the back of a guitar. I don't mind it at all, but this person clearly did, whoever they were, attempted to save the integrity of their precious Jaguar's finish by ruining the integrity of their precious Jaguar's finish by drilling into the guitar. I see this all the time. You see people adhering back pads or like gluing down felt to the back of their guitars in an attempt to keep the guitar relatively clean, and it always ruins the finish. In fact, Fender's old bodyguards, a plastic shell that would go on the back of your guitar that you could buy separately, those had foam on them that would react with a nitro finish. So many times when you get a vintage guitar and you can see a line around the outside of the guitar, that's probably from a bodyguard, the thing meant to protect the finish that clearly did not. It's one of my favorite quirks of old guitars. Anyway, I just think that's a really cool feature that points to an owner and a story and an intent, and I love seeing that. I don't care that there are two holes in the guitar. I look at the imprint of the buttons and I know the story immediately. So yeah, vintage guitars, so much fun. The next project I took on in the last couple weeks is a lilac mist, kind of like a burgundy mist, but much more purple, much more lilac parts guitar that a person brought over for a full assembly. And that guitar had a few issues that I am going to save for a future video on parts guitars. Now, I am like many of you in that I love a good parts guitar. It's a lot of fun to build a guitar that is perfectly spec'd out for your particular needs. But when it comes to offset guitars, I have to admit that I often don't recommend, especially first-timers, start with an offset guitar made from parts, because not only are there a lot of setup things that you need to be aware of with offset guitars, but also every single company that offers parts on the market is using a totally different body and neck template. Sometimes you're going to have fit issues with those things, and that can happen, and it's easy enough to fix. But what a lot of people don't realize, well, the parts on the body, the vibrato, the guard, even sometimes the pickup positions do not line up, and it can be an incredibly frustrating experience. So in an attempt to give you a heads up about what you need to be aware of when you're building a parts offset, I filmed part of that process, and that video will come out sometime. I've got a few more parts guitars coming in for work, and I think I can hit all of my bullet points. It's just going to take me a little bit of time. But in any case, that guitar came out great. A lot of good parts on that thing. It's lightweight. It is a lot of fun to play. And Michael, the owner, bought my Descendant vibrato off me. So now I've got money for a vintage unit or another mastery. I'm really excited about that, and I cannot wait to tell you more about that guitar. The next jobs that I'm going to talk about, I hinted at in the last Roundup video about some guitars that were coming from one of my personal heroes. A little background. This person's name is Alton Brown. That's right, Alton Brown from Good Eats and so many other food-based entertainment. Alton is a genius when it comes to sharing the fun of cooking, the science of cooking, the techniques, the tools. When it comes to what I'm doing here on this channel and what I want to do as far as education goes, sharing the ins and outs of guitar maintenance and playing and encouraging people to experiment and try things on their own, Alton is one of my heroes for that stuff. Alton, Adam Savage, so many others. People who make education fun. That stuff is super important to me. And the fact that Alton is trusting me with his guitars, one of which is this built Merc on the bench, it blows my mind. And I'm tickled. I am beside myself with joy that Alton Brown sent me some guitars to work on. Here's a quick rundown of what we did. First things first, both guitars came in because Alton felt that the fret wire used on the guitars, two of them are BilTs, was far too tall, and I have to say I agree. These frets were about 1.35 or 36 millimeters tall, very big jumbo frets. I found them really difficult to play. These frets were so big that you fretted a note, you could feel it the whole way up the neck. You just kept getting caught on what felt like railroad ties, and that's neither fun for me nor him. So the aim of my work was to reduce their height by between 30 and 40%. And I think we ended up with an overall height of these frets at 0.9 millimeters. And on the Volare, the gold one that I worked on, those are at 0.85, which is just a little bit over what StewMac 148 fret wire is, which is my favorite. So yeah, we're in good company. Volare is an incredible guitar. It's shaped like a Starcaster, bolt-on neck, 2 amazing Lawler Regal wide-range humbuckers. Those are fantastic pickups. And that job went pretty much as you'd expect, although I did have to flip the pickups because from the built factory, they were in the wrong positions. The neck was in the bridge, and the bridge was in the neck. So I flipped them back to the correct positions, and they balanced out beautifully. And yeah, I did fretwork on that one. It really didn't need a whole lot else. This Merc, on the other hand, well, not only did I take some fret height off, but I also had to reseat and glue the frets down because they were popping out something fierce. And that may not be BilTs' fault. That could be a quirk of weather or storage or shipping or any of those things. But it was happening, and so I needed to correct that in order to get a good level on these frets, but that came out great. I also shaved down the overall height of the saddle height adjustment screws on this bridge. They were very proud, very tall, and so I reduced them in height, some of them by 3 or 4 threads. That's how I measure that. Some only by 1, but I tried to get a much more comfortable right-hand feel out of this guitar, but it came out great. And I will also say the Merc surprised me because it's kind of like a melted Stratocaster, and just by looking at it, I had this impression visually that it would be a really aggressive sounding guitar, but you know what? Plugging this in, I think these are Lawler El Rayo humbuckers, and those are incredible pickups. They're kind of like PAFs, but they've got a distinct single coil personality. They are bouncy. They've got a nice hollow woody mid-range, and they have plenty of output, but they're not hot by any means. There's just a really nice, warm, clear sound that comes out of these, and I ended up loving this thing. It's also got these really cool speed knobs that have the soldering iron holes in them. You know, I think Dimebag Darrell was famous for doing that to his knobs, and it's just kind of a fun little quirk. Makes them really easy to turn. Great for comfort. Oh, and when I did the fretwork, obviously you have to remove the nut on most necks when you're doing fretwork so that you don't hit it with your sanding beam. And this one was glued in, something fierce with a lot of CA glue, and that actually broke. So I had to replace the nut. Again, no big deal. I expect that with a lot of fretwork, but it was just a little more work. The nut that I cut for Alton, I am incredibly proud of. This looks beautiful. The height is perfect. Like, I think Alton's going to be really pleased with this one when he gets it back. Man, I'm so tired. And yeah, last year I didn't even know that Alton Brown played guitar, but here I am doing some work for him on his very cool instruments. He actually plays guitar in his touring show, and he's got some dates coming up, so I'm really excited. And maybe I'll get to go to one. I don't know. I'll ask. I'll see what I can do. But in any case, these jobs went beautifully, and there is a third guitar that I'm not going to tell you about because that will be the subject of an upcoming On the Bench. It's a very cool, very old guitar, and it is right up my alley. So yeah, stay tuned for that. As for other upcoming jobs, I've got an MIJ neck that desperately needs frets, and I need to finish that job. Actually, you may remember this MIJ Jazzmaster from a video on the channel, one of the first On the Benches, where I swapped some pickups out. It was a candy apple red guitar that had, I mean, hilariously enormous frets, like the jumboest of jumbo frets on it, and oh my god, it was so hard to play. The fretwork wasn't all that great, not super level. The frets weren't seated properly. The ends are really pokey and bitey, and you could feel it when you ran your hand up the neck. So I pulled those frets, and I also discovered that the neck had been curiously radiused at 6 inches, which is incredibly round, and so much wood had already been removed from the neck that I had to remove even more to get it back to 7 1/4 as it should be. So that has just been a long process of getting this neck evened out. I've also got a fret job that I want to do for this test guitar, which you've seen in the vibrato position video. That's about it for jobs worth mentioning. There are other things that are just kind of standard setups that, you know, there's nothing very interesting about them. When I have time for leisure activities, I am still tearing it up in Fallout 3. My character, Fahogwagads, is a karmic neutral character, which is my first time doing it in Fallout 3. And I'm very excited to have my impartial mediation perk activated. That is just going so well. It's so good to be back in the Wasteland, and yeah, I love that game. I'm also really looking forward to the Mass Effect remaster, which I haven't picked up yet, but I'm a huge fan of that game, so I probably will at some point. Although, I mean, I love Mass Effect so much that from what I've seen, I'm not even certain that the changes are going to make all that much of a difference to me. I am there for the story. I am there to play as my kick-ass Paragon Femshep, and I cannot wait to reactivate her. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to see all my old friends in that game, like Solus and Liara and Tali and Garrick. Garrick? Garrus. Wow. That's still one of the best gaming experiences of my life. I really, really love that story. So yeah, I can't wait for the remaster. Otherwise, I've been watching a lot of Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles, which I think, here's a controversial opinion, I think it's the best of any of the Terminator sequels past T2. Everything else has been a letdown, but I love that Sarah Connor Chronicles kind of dives into the psychology of the Terminators. That's really interesting to me. I think Summer Glau was perfectly cast as a Terminator. I think she's fantastic. And, you know, I haven't seen that show since it was first on the air, but damn, I love it. I'm so excited to be going through it. We're almost done, which means I'm going to be sad that we never got season 3. But it's also really cool to see Shirley Manson from Garbage in that show. I really enjoy that. But yeah, having fun with that. What else? Music. I found my old 160 gig iPod, and so I've been listening to a lot of Magnetic Fields and other songs that I haven't heard in a long time. But yeah, I've been going back through all of the music that I haven't had on my computer in years, and it's great. I'm having so much fun with it. But I haven't been listening to too much music because, I don't know if you see right here, I got my Strange Audio Lux Plus. That's right, I went and picked it up this week, and it is everything I've ever hoped for. And it is a little different from the one I featured on the channel before. This one has a 15-inch speaker, a Weber Blue Dog, which is probably my favorite 15. It's very warm and dark and loud. It's a great speaker, pairs beautifully with this amp, and my amp does not feature a bright channel. It has a normal channel and an also normal channel. So yeah, it's the perfect amp for me. I'm only just digging into it, but I am loving it. Josh, you killed it. In any case, I hope this video was fun and informative and conversational and a nice way for us to just have our little chat once every few weeks. I have no idea how frequent these videos are going to be yet. I am just trying to see if I can work them in at this point. So they may be bi-weekly, they may be monthly, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out and keep them coming. Want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for keeping us afloat while we're making these crazy videos. I appreciate you so much. And if you're interested in finding out how you too can support the channel, click the link in the description down below. In any case, thank you so much for watching. It does mean the world to me, and I appreciate you liking, sharing, commenting, for subscribing, for doing all of that good stuff, and following along in this very weird YouTube adventure. Thank you so much. I hope that you're taking care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in the next video.